Dr. Maya Torres pressed her face against the cold glass of the observation window and watched the most beautiful creature she had ever seen slowly die. The being in the containment cell below had skin like liquid starlight, shifting through colors that Maya had spent 3 months learning to read. Right now, the creature's skin was the deep purple of terror, mixed with patches of black that meant hopelessness. The creature was called a Kromari, though Maya doubted that was what they called themselves. The name came from Vorthan Empire soldiers who had brought this one and 12 others to the research station on Kepler 442b. The Vorthan were reptilian beings with scales like old leather and eyes that showed no emotion at all. They had told the human researchers that these color-changing beings were valuable for their bioluminescent properties, but Maya suspected there was more to the story. Maya had been studying xenobiology for 15 years, ever since humanity had first made contact with alien species. She had seen many strange creatures from across the galaxy, but nothing like the Kromari. They were humanoid, about the same height as humans, with delicate features and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Their most remarkable feature was their translucent skin that changed colors based on what they were feeling. In her 3 months of observation, Maya had documented dozens of colors. Blue meant the Kromari was calm and peaceful. Red showed anger or frustration. Yellow was joy or happiness. Green indicated curiosity or interest. Purple meant fear, and the deeper the purple, the greater the fear. Silver showed deep thought or concentration. Pink meant affection or love. Orange was excitement or surprise. Brown indicated confusion or uncertainty. But the black patches worried Maya the most. She had only seen black on Kromari who were dying or who had given up all hope. It was a color of despair so deep that it consumed all other emotions. The young female Kromari in the cell below had been showing more and more black over the past week. Maya had named her Kira, though she knew the creature probably had her own name in whatever language the Kromari spoke. Kira looked to be young, maybe equivalent to a human teenager, and Maya had watched her grow weaker each day. The Vorthan guards treated the Kromari like objects rather than living beings. They fed them a gray paste that barely kept them alive and gave them water that looked dirty. Worse than that, they seemed to enjoy watching the Kromari's skin change colors when they were frightened or hurt. Maya had seen the guards deliberately startle the creatures just to watch their skin flash bright purple. Maya wrote in her research notes that the Kromari appear to be highly intelligent and sensitive beings. Their color changing seemed to be their primary form of communication, more complex than simple emotional display. She had noticed patterns in the way colors shifted across their skin, almost like a visual language. When 2 Kromari were together, their colors would often mirror each other or create complementary patterns. But the Kromari in the research station were kept isolated from each other. The Vorthan said it was for security reasons, but Maya suspected it was another form of cruelty. Social beings forced into solitude, unable to communicate with their own kind. Maya had tried to learn more about where the Kromari came from and why the Vorthan had captured them. The Vorthan captain, a large reptile named Commander Vex, had been vague in his answers. He said the Kromari were from a planet on the edge of Vorthan space, and that they were being studied for the benefit of galactic science. But Maya had noticed that several Vorthan ships came and went from the station, always carrying away containers that glowed with the same soft light that emanated from Kromari skin. The more Maya watched, the more convinced she became that the Kromari were not research subjects but prisoners. The way they huddled in the corners of their cells, the way their colors grew duller each day, the way they seemed to shrink into themselves suggested beings who had been torn from their homes and families. Maya tried to discuss her concerns with Dr. Williams, the human station commander, but he reminded her that their job was to observe and document, not to interfere with Vorthan operations. The research station was neutral territory, and maintaining good relations with the Vorthan Empire was essential for human expansion into this sector of space. But Maya found it harder each day to remain neutral as she watched Kira waste away. The young Kromari had not shown any color except purple and black for 3 days now. She barely ate the food the guards brought her and spent most of her time curled in the far corner of her cell, as far from the observation window as possible. On this particular morning, Maya watched as 2 Vorthan guards entered Kira's cell. One carried a metal rod that crackled with electricity. The other held a container that Maya recognized as being used to collect bioluminescent fluid from Kromari's skin. Maya's stomach turned as she realized what was about to happen. The guards approached Kira, who immediately pressed herself against the wall, her skin flashing brilliant purple with streaks of red. The first guard poked her with the electric rod, not enough to seriously hurt her, but enough to cause pain. Kira's skin erupted in chaotic patterns of red and purple as she cried out in a voice that sounded almost musical despite the pain. The second guard held a container near Kira's arm as her distressed skin began to glow brighter. Maya realized that the Kromari's emotional responses caused their skin to produce more of the valuable bioluminescent fluid. The Vorthen were literally farming their prisoners' pain and fear. Maya felt something break inside her chest as she watched Kira suffer. The young Kromari looked up at the observation window, and for a moment their eyes met through the glass. In those large, expressive eyes, Maya saw intelligence, fear, and a desperate plea for help that transcended species. Barriers. The guard of the electric rod poked Kira again, and this time she collapsed to the floor, her skin cycling rapidly through colors of pain and terror. The guards laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the metal walls of the cell. They were enjoying this. Maya had spent her entire career studying alien life forms with scientific detachment. She had dissected creatures, analyzed their biology, and documented their behaviors without letting emotion interfere with her work. But watching Kira suffer while she stood safely behind reinforced glass felt like the worst kind of cowardice. The Vorthen guards finished collecting their samples and left Kira lying on the cold floor of her cell. Her skin had turned an almost solid black now, with just tiny flickers of purple around the edges. Maya knew that if this continued, Kira would be dead within days. Maya looked around the observation room and confirmed she was alone. Dr. Williams was in his office filing reports, and the other researchers were in different sections of the station. The Vorthen guards had moved on to torment other Kromari prisoners in other cells. Maya made a decision that went against every protocol she had been taught. She accessed the control panel and opened the door to the containment level. Her hand shook as she descended the stairs, knowing that what she was about to do could end her career and possibly get her arrested by Vorthen authorities. The containment level smelled of fear and despair, a metallic scent that made Maya's throat tight. She could hear soft sounds from other cells, the musical voices of Kromari in distress. But she focused on Kira's cell at the end of the corridor. Maya input her access code, and the cell door slid open with a soft hiss. Kira looked up from where she lay on the floor, her large eyes wide with surprise. Her skin flickered from black to a confused brown color as she tried to understand why a human had entered her prison. Maya approached slowly, her hands visible and empty. She knelt down beside Kira, close enough to see the delicate patterns that moved like slow lightning beneath the Kromari's translucent skin. Up close, Maya could see that Kira was even more beautiful than she had appeared through the observation window, despite her weakened state. Maya reached out slowly and gently placed her hand on Kira's shoulder, the same gesture she might use to comfort a frightened human child. The moment her fingers touched the Kromari skin, something extraordinary happened. Kira's skin erupted in a color Maya had never seen before. It was gold, but not the yellow gold of human jewelry. This was a deep, warm gold that seemed to glow from within, pulsing like a heartbeat. The color spread from where Maya's hand touched outward across Kira's entire body, replacing the black despair with something that looked like liquid sunlight. Maya stared in amazement as Kira pushed herself up to a sitting position, strength seeming to flow back into her body along with the golden color. The Kromari looked at Maya with wonder, her large eyes reflecting the golden glow of her own skin. Neither of them noticed the Vorthen guard who had returned to check on the prisoners and now stood frozen in the doorway, staring at a color that did not exist in any of their databases. The Vorthen guard stared at Kira's golden skin with his mouth hanging open and his weapon forgotten in his clawed hand. In all his years of handling Kromari prisoners, he had never seen this color. The Empire's extensive database contained detailed records of every emotional state the Kromari could display, gathered from studying thousands of these creatures across dozens of conquered worlds. But gold was not in those records. Maya kept her hand on Kira's shoulder and felt warmth flowing between them that had nothing to do with body temperature. The golden light pulsing beneath the Kromari's skin seemed to respond to Maya's heartbeat, growing brighter with each breath she took. Kira's large eyes never left Maya's face, and slowly her skin began to show patches of soft pink mixed with the gold. The guard finally remembered his training and raised his weapon, pointing it at Maya. His voice came out as a harsh growl when he spoke in broken human language. Human female, step away from prisoner. You violate containment protocols. Maya looked up at the reptilian soldier, but did not move her hand from Kira's shoulder. She's hurt and afraid. I'm not going to leave her like this. Kromari is property of Vorthan Empire. You interfere with Imperial business. The guard's finger moved toward the trigger of his weapon, but he hesitated. The golden glow from Kira's skin was getting brighter, and something about it made the guard feel uneasy in ways he could not understand. Kira slowly pushed herself to her feet, Maya's hand sliding down to hold hers. The moment their fingers intertwined, the golden color deepened and began to pulse in complex patterns that looked almost like written language flowing across the Kromari skin. Kira turned to face the guard and spoke in her musical voice, the sounds rising and falling like a sad song. The guard stepped backward, his weapon shaking in his hands. He had heard Kromari speak before, usually cries of pain or fear, but this was different. Kira's voice seemed to carry emotions that went straight into his mind, making him feel things he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, the Vorthan guard felt sorry for what he had done to the prisoners. Maya watched the guard's expression change from anger to confusion to something that might have been guilt. She had no idea what Kira had said to him, but whatever it was, it clearly affected the reptilian soldier in ways he did not expect. What did she do to me? The guard whispered, lowering his weapon slightly. What is this feeling in my thoughts? Maya squeezed Kira's hand gently and felt the golden glow pulse brighter. She's not doing anything to you. You're just feeling what she feels. Maybe for the first time, you understand how much pain you cause. The guard looked from Maya to Kira and back again, his scaled face showing confusion. This is not possible. Kromari cannot affect Vorthan minds. We have tested this many times. They couldn't before, Maya said quietly. But something changed when I touched her. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside as more guards approached, drawn by the unusual light coming from Kira's cell. Commander Vex pushed past the confused guard and entered the cell, his large reptilian form filling the doorway. His cold eyes immediately focused on the golden glow surrounding Kira and Maya. What has happened here? Vex demanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. Why does the Kromari display unknown coloration? The first guard struggled to explain. The human female touched the prisoner, Commander. The color appeared immediately, and the prisoner spoke to me, made me feel strange things in my mind. Commander Vex studied Maya and Kira with the calculating gaze of a predator. Impossible. Our scientists have studied Kromari for decades. There are no unknown colors in their emotional spectrum. Maya felt Kira's hand tighten in hers as more Vorthan soldiers entered the cell. The Kromari skin began to show streaks of purple fear mixed with the dominant gold, but the golden color seemed to protect her somehow, keeping the fear from overwhelming her completely. Your scientists were wrong, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the weapons pointed at her. Maybe they never tried showing these creatures kindness. Commander Vex laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Kindness is weakness. Human. It has no place in the galaxy. But this new color intrigues me. If the Kromari can produce unknown bioluminescent compounds, they become far more valuable. The commander gestured to his guards. Separate them. I want to know exactly what the human did to cause this change. We will replicate the process with other prisoners. As the guards moved forward, Kira stepped protectively in front of Maya, her skin flashing brilliant patterns of gold and red. She spoke again in her musical language, and this time all the Vorthan guards stopped moving. Several of them dropped their weapons, their faces showing the same confusion the first guard had experienced. What is she doing to my soldiers? Commander Vex roared, drawing his own weapon. Maya felt something flowing through her connection with Kira, an understanding that went beyond words or conscious thought. Somehow, through their physical contact, she was amplifying something that had always existed in the Kromari, but had never been strong enough to affect other species before. She's not doing anything, Maya said. She's showing them emotions they've never felt before. Compassion, empathy, the ability to feel someone else's pain, as if it were their own. Impossible, Vex snarled. Vorthen do not feel such weaknesses. But even as he spoke, several of his guards were backing away from Maya and Kira, their weapons forgotten. One young soldier was staring at his hands as if seeing them for the first time, and Maya could see tears forming in his reptilian eyes. "We hurt them," the young soldier whispered. "All this time we hurt them, and they felt everything we did to them." Commander Vex struck the soldier across the face with his clawed hand. "Control yourself. These are not your thoughts." But the damage was spreading. Through her connection with Kira, Maya could sense other Cromarian nearby, cells beginning to glow with faint golden light. Whatever was happening between her and Kira was somehow affecting the other prisoners as well. Alarms began to sound throughout the research station as monitoring equipment detected the unusual energy, readings coming from the containment level. Maya could hear Dr. Williams' voice over the communication system, demanding to know what was happening. Commander Vex grabbed Maya's arm and tried to pull her away from Kira, but the moment his clawed hand touched human skin, he froze. His eyes went wide with shock as he experienced human emotion for the first time in his life. Through Maya's connection with Kira, he felt the Cromari's fear and pain as if it were his own. The commander stumbled backward, his weapon clattering to the floor. "What have you done to me, human?" "I haven't done anything," Maya said, still holding Kira's hand. "I just cared about someone who was suffering. That's what humans do." More alarms sounded as energy readings spiked throughout the containment level. In cells all around them, Cromari prisoners were beginning to glow with golden light, their colors changing from the dark shades of despair to brighter hues of hope and wonder. Dr. Williams' voice crackled over the intercom. "Maya, what's your status down there?" "We're reading massive bioenergy fluctuations from a containment level." Maya looked at Kira, whose skin was now pulsing with complex patterns of gold, pink, and a new color that looked like liquid starlight. The Cromari squeezed Maya's hand and spoke softly in her musical language. Somehow Maya understood, not the words, but the meaning behind them. Kira was telling her that this was just the beginning, that what they had started together would change everything for both their species. "Dr. Williams," Maya said into her communicator, never taking her eyes off Kira's face. "I think we need to talk. Something incredible is happening down here, and the Vorthen aren't going to like what it means for their empire." Around them, Vorthen guard were struggling with emotions they had never felt before, while in the distance, the sound of Cromari voices rose in harmonious songs of hope. The golden light continued to spread, reaching toward other cells and other prisoners, carrying with it the revolutionary idea that kindness was not weakness, but the most powerful force in the galaxy. Commander Vex backed toward the cell door, his face a mask of confusion and fear. "This is not over. Human, the Empire will not allow this contamination to spread." But as he spoke, Maya could see doubt in his reptilian eyes. For the first time in his life, he had felt what his victims felt, and that knowledge would change him forever whether he wanted it to or not. Maya squeezed Kira's hand again and watched as the golden light pulsed brighter, carrying the promise of freedom to prisoners who had given up all hope. Whatever happened next, there was no going back the way things were before a human had offered kindness to an alien who needed it most. Dr. Williams arrived at a containment level with 3 other human researchers, their faces showing confusion and concern as they witnessed the chaos unfolding before them. Half the Vorthen guards were sitting on the floor with their heads in their hands, tears streaming down their scaled faces as they experienced emotions they had no words for. The other half stood frozen against the walls, staring at the Cromari prisoners who now glowed with golden light that pulsed in synchronized patterns throughout the facility. Tom Blake, the station's chief engineer, stopped next to Dr. Williams and whistled quietly at the sight. "Maya, what exactly did you do down here?" Maya still held Kira's hand as she turned to face her colleagues. The golden light surrounding the young Cromari had spread to create a warm glow that filled the entire corridor. "I touched her, Tom. That's all I did. I saw her suffering and I wanted to help." Dr. Lisa Chun, the station's medical officer, approached carefully with her scanner in hand. "The bioenergy readings are off the charts. Whatever's happening, it's affecting the nervous systems of every creature in this section. Jake Morrison, the security chief, kept his hand near his weapon as he watched the confused Vorthan guards. Are they dangerous in the state? No, Maya said softly. They're experiencing empathy for the first time in their lives. They're feeling what their prisoners feel, and it's overwhelming them. Commander Vex pushed himself off the wall, where he had been leaning, and tried to reassert his authority, though his voice shook with unfamiliar emotions. This is some kind of human weapon. You have contaminated my soldiers with weakness. Dr. Williams stepped forward diplomatically. Commander, we assure you this was not intentional. Dr. Torres was simply following her research protocols. Research protocols do not include direct contact with prisoners. Vex snarled, but his anger seemed forced now, as if he was trying to feel a way he used to feel, but could not quite manage it. Kira spoke in her musical language, the sounds flowing like water over stones. As she spoke, her skin showed new patterns that Maya had never seen before, complex swirls of gold and silver that seemed to tell a story. Several of the Vorthan guards looked up from where they sat, drawn by the beauty of her voice. What is she saying? Tom asked. Maya found herself understanding again, the meaning flowing into her mind through their connected hands. She's telling them about her home world, about her family, about the day the Vorthan ships came and took her away from everyone she loved. One of the younger Vorthan guards made a sound like a sob. We took children from their families? Commander Vex whirled on the guard. They are not children. They are resources. Their age is irrelevant. But even as he spoke, Vex's own eyes were drawn to Kira, and Maya could see the doubt growing in his reptilian features. Through whatever connection had been established, he too was beginning to understand what his empire had done to countless innocent beings. Dr. Chen finished her scans and looked at the results with amazement. Maya, the energy signatures coming from your connection with the Kromari are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if you're creating some kind of emotional resonance field. Emotional resonance? Dr. Williams asked. The best way I can explain it is that Maya's brain waves are synchronizing with the Kromari's neural patterns, but instead of just matching them, she's amplifying something that was already there. The Kromari appear to have natural empathic abilities that were suppressed or dormant until they made contact with a truly empathic species. Tom scratched his head as he tried to understand. You're saying humans are more empathic than other species? Not more empathic, Dr. Chen corrected. Differently empathic. Most species feel emotions primarily from members of their own kind. Humans have the rare ability to genuinely feel for creatures that are completely different from us. When that human empathy connects with Kromari biology, it unlocks something extraordinary. Maya felt Kira's hand squeeze hers gently, and suddenly she could sense not just Kira's emotions, but those of other Kromari throughout the facility. They were all connected somehow, sharing feelings and thoughts in ways that transcended individual consciousness. Through this network, Maya could feel their memories of home, their love for families they might never see again, and their growing hope that maybe the nightmare captivity was finally ending. There are more of them, Maya said quietly. Dozens more in other sections of the station, and they're all connected to each other through this network. Commander Vex overheard and stepped forward, his confusion temporarily replaced by military concern. What network? Explain this connection. Maya looked at him with pity that she made no effort to hide. They're a social species, Commander. They were meant to live together, to share emotions and experiences. By keeping them isolated, you've been slowly killing them even without physical harm. Jake Morrison moved closer to examine one of the affected Vorthan guards. How long will this empathy effect last? Are your soldiers going to be able to function? I do not know, Vex admitted, and for the first time his voice carried uncertainty instead of arrogance. This has never happened before. Our databases contain no information about Kromari affecting other species in this way. Dr. Chun continued scanning the area. The effect seems to be strongest around Maya and this particular Kromari, but it's spreading outward in waves. Other Kromari are beginning to glow with similar energy patterns. Tom pointed down the corridor where golden light was visible coming from other cells. If this keeps spreading, what happens to the whole station? Nothing bad happens, Maya said, though she was not entirely certain herself. The Kromari aren't trying to hurt anyone. They're just sharing what they feel, and what they feel is hope for the first time in months or years. Lisichin approached one of the crying Vorthan guards and carefully touched his shoulder. The reptilian soldier looked up at her with eyes full of confusion and pain. "Why do I hurt inside?" he asked in broken human language. "Why do I feel their sadness as my own?" "Because that's what empathy means," Lisa said gently. "It means understanding that others feel pain just like you do." Tom walked over to Kira and Maya, studying the golden patterns flowing across the Kromari skin. "Maya, would it be safe for me to touch her too? If human contact amplifies whatever this is, maybe we can help more of them." Maya looked at Kira, who nodded and extended her free hand toward Tom. The moment his fingers touched her palm, the golden glow intensified and began to show new colors mixed within it. Deep emerald green spiraled through the gold, and Maya somehow knew this represented hope on a level beyond individual experience. "Incredible," Tom breathed as he felt the connection form. "I can sense her thoughts, her memories. She's showing me her home world, Maya. It's beautiful, with crystal cities and gardens that glow at night. And there are thousands of them there, all connected, all sharing joy and sorrow together." Jake Morrison watched nervously as more golden light began to pulse through the facility. This is all very touching, but what happens when word of this reaches the Vorthan High Command? They're not going to be happy about losing control of their prisoners. Commander Vex had been listening to everything, and now he stepped forward with an expression that mixed fear and fascination. The High Command will see this as a threat to Imperial authority. They will order the destruction of the station and everyone on it to prevent the contamination from spreading. "Contamination?" Maya asked angrily. "Is that what you call learning to feel compassion for other living beings?" "Yes," Vex said simply. "The Empire is built on strength and the willingness to take what we need from weaker species. If our soldiers begin to feel sympathy for our enemies, the Empire will collapse." Dr. Lisa Chun moved to another Kromari cell and placed her hand against the containment field controls. "Then maybe it should collapse. Maybe it's time for something better." The containment field deactivated, and Lisa stepped into the cell where another young Kromari huddled in the corner. This one's skin showed a gray of exhaustion mixed with purple fear. But when Lisa knelt down and gently touched the creature's shoulder, golden light bloomed around them both. "That's 3 humans now," Dr. Williams observed, "and each connection seems to make the effect stronger." Maya could feel it too, a growing network of consciousness that connected her not just to Kira, but to Tom, Lisa, and the Kromari they had touched. Through this connection, she could sense the emotions and thoughts of beings she had never met, understanding their hopes and fears as clearly as her own. "We need to free all of them," Maya said, the certainty of it flowing through the network from dozens of imprisoned minds. "They've been separated from their families, from their world, from everything that gives their lives meaning. We can't leave them in these cells." Commander Vex raised his weapon again, but his hand shook with conflicting emotions warring in his mind. "I cannot allow you to release Imperial property." Jake Morrison drew his own weapon, not pointing it at anyone, but making it clear he was ready to act. "Commander, with respect, those aren't your prisoners anymore. They're people, and people deserve to be free." As if responding to his words, golden light pulsed brighter throughout the facility, and the sound of Kromari voices rose in harmonious songs that spoke of freedom, hope, and the revolutionary idea that kindness between species was not only possible, but necessary for survival of all. The first Vorthan warship appeared on the station sensors 3 hours after Commander Vex sent his emergency report to the High Command. Within minutes, 5 more ships materialized from hyperspace, their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed to reduce entire planets to ash. Tom Blake stood in the station's control room, his hands flying over the communications equipment as he tried to establish contact with Earth Command. The golden connection he shared with the Kromari network was still active, and through it he could feel the fear rippling through dozens of imprisoned minds as they sensed the approaching danger. "Maya, they're not responding to our distress calls," Tom called out. "The Vorthan are jamming all our long-range transmissions." Maya stood with Kira and 3 other freed Kromari in the center of the control room, their connected hands creating a web of golden light that pulsed in rhythm with their shared heartbeats. Through the network, she could sense Jake Morrison and Dr. Chin moving to the lower levels, freeing more prisoners from their cells. How many ships? Maya asked without taking her eyes off Kira's face. 6 warships, all heavy cruiser class, Tom replied. Enough firepower to vaporize the station and everything around it. Commander Vex entered the control room with his remaining loyal guards, though even they looked uncertain as the golden light from the Kromari network filled the space around them. The High Command has issued their orders, he announced. All humans in contaminated Kromari are to be eliminated to prevent the spread of this emotional plague. Dr. Williams stepped forward, trying to maintain his diplomatic composure even as weapons were pointed at his team. Commander, surely we can negotiate. This discovery could benefit all species in the galaxy. The High Command sees no benefit in weakness, Vex replied, but his voice lacked the conviction it carried earlier. 3 hours of exposure to the empathic network had changed him in ways he was still struggling to understand. Maya felt Kira's hand tighten in hers as the young Kromari skin began to show swirls of deep red mixed with the golden glow. Through their connection, Maya understood that Kira was not showing anger but determination, a fierce resolve to protect her fellow prisoners and the humans who had shown them kindness. The station shuddered as the first Vorthan ship opened fire, not with ship-killing weapons, but with targeted strikes designed to disable their defenses and communications. Alarms blared throughout the facility as power fluctuations caused lights to flicker on and off. They're not trying to destroy us yet, Tom observed. They want to board and capture some of us alive for study. Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom from the lower levels. Maya, you need to see what's happening down here. The Kromari are doing something I've never seen before. Maya led the group toward the containment levels, Kira and the other freed Kromari moving with her in perfect coordination. Their skin patterns had synchronized, creating flowing waves of color that seemed to pulse with shared purpose. In the main containment area, Maya found Jake standing among dozens of freed Kromari prisoners, all of them glowing with the same golden light, but showing new colors that shifted and flowed in complex patterns. Some displayed brilliant white that seemed to cut through the dim lighting like searchlights. Others showed deep blue that pulsed like ocean waves. Still others flickered with silver that moved like liquid mercury across their translucent skin. What are they doing? Dr. Williams asked in amazement. Lisa Chin emerged from one of the cells, her hand linked with an elderly Kromari, whose skin showed patterns of incredible complexity. They're communicating with each other across vast distances, she said. Through our connection, I can sense Kromari on other worlds, other star systems. They're all part of the same network. Kira spoke in her musical language, and Maya felt the meaning flow into her mind through their connection. She says her people have been waiting for this moment for generations. They knew that someday they would meet a species capable of awakening their true potential. The station shuddered again as more Vorthan ships opened fire, this time with boarding pods designed to breach the hull and deliver troops directly into the facility. Tom's voice echoed over the intercom from the control room. They're coming aboard. Multiple breach points on levels 3 and 7. Jake checked his weapons and prepared to move toward the nearest breach point, but one of the Kromari gently touched his arm. The creature's skin showed swirling patterns of red and gold as it spoke in its musical language. What's it saying? Jake asked. Maya listened through the network connection. He says fighting will not be necessary. They have a different plan. The sound of Vorthan boots echoed through the corridors as armed soldiers spread throughout the station, their reptilian voices shouting orders as they searched for human and Kromari targets. But as they moved deeper into the facility, something began to affect them. The first Vorthan squad entered the main containment area with weapons raised, expecting to find cowering prisoners and defiant humans. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by beings that glowed with colors they had never seen before, creating patterns of light that seemed to reach. Maya watched as the lead Vorthan soldier stopped in his tracks, his weapon lowering as his reptilian face showed confusion. The Kromari around him were not displaying colors of fear or anger, but something else entirely. Their skin showed deep gold mixed with white and silver, creating patterns that spoke of peace, understanding, and forgiveness. What is happening to me? The soldier whispered as tears began to flow down his scaled cheeks. I feel their pain, but also their hope. How is this possible? More Vorthan troops entered the area, but each one was affected the same way. The empathic field generated by the human Kromari network was stronger now, amplified by the emotional resonance of dozens of connected minds. The reptilian soldiers found themselves experiencing not just individual emotions, but collective feelings that transcended species barriers. Jake Morrison watched in amazement as hardened Vorthan warriors sat down heavily on the floor, overwhelmed by their first experience of genuine compassion. They're not fighting back, he observed. The empathic field is affecting them faster than before. Tom's voice came over the intercom again. Maya, the Vorthan ship captains are demanding to know why their boarding parties have gone silent. They're threatening to use heavy weapons if we don't surrender immediately. Maya felt the solution flow through the network connection, an idea that came not from any single mind but from the collective consciousness of all the connected beings. Tom, can you boost the station's power grid? We need to amplify the empathic field beyond the station itself. Amplify how far? Tom asked. Far enough to reach their ships, Maya replied. Tom was quiet for a moment as he considered the implications. Maya, that's a lot of power. The energy requirements would be enormous, and I'm not sure the station systems can handle that kind of load. Kira stepped forward and placed her free hand on a wall panel. Golden light flowed from her touch into the station's electrical systems, and Maya felt the Kromari network connecting directly with the human technology. Other Kromari throughout the facility did the same, their bioluminescent energy feeding into the power grid. They're giving us their energy, Maya said in wonder. They're turning themselves into living power sources. The station's lights brightened dramatically as Kromari bioenergy flowed through every circuit and system. Tom's voice carried excitement as he reported from the control room. Power levels are climbing beyond anything I've ever seen. The Kromari energy is perfectly compatible with our systems. Lisa can monitor the bio readings of their Kromari partners as they channel their life force into the amplification process. Their vital signs are stable. Somehow, they're drawing energy not just from themselves, but from a network connection. It's like they're tapping into a source of power that exists between minds rather than within them. Jake moved to a viewport and looked out at the Vorthan warships hanging in space around the station. If this works, what exactly are we going to do to those ships? Maya squeezed Kira's hand and felt the answer flow through their connection. We're going to show them what they've been missing. We're going to give them the chance to feel what love means. Tom initiated the amplification sequence, and golden light began to pulse outward from the station in expanding waves. The empathic field, powered by the combined will of humans and Kromari working together, reached across space toward the Vorthan fleet. On board the lead warship, Captain Thek was preparing to order the station's destruction when the golden wave reached his vessel. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every Vorthan on every ship suddenly found themselves connected to the network of consciousness that linked the humans and Kromari together. For the first time in their species' history, the Vorthan felt genuine love, not just for their own kind but for all living beings. They experienced the joy of connection, the peace that came from understanding others, and the profound sadness of all the suffering they had caused throughout their empire's expansion. Captain Thek staggered to his command chair as emotions he had no names for flooded through his mind. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same transformation, their weapons forgotten as they struggled to understand these new feelings. Maya felt the moment when the last Vorthan ship was touched by the empathic field, and through the network she sensed a collective gasp of an entire fleet as they experienced compassion for the first time in their lives. The silence that followed the empathic wave was more profound than any battle Maya had ever witnessed. Through the network connection, she could sense the transformation happening across the entire Vorthan fleet as thousands of reptilian minds experienced emotions they had never known existed. The golden light that connected her to Kira now stretched across space itself, linking every consciousness within its reach into a web of shared understanding. Captain Thek's voice came over the communication channels, but instead of the harsh commands Maya expected, his words carried confusion and wonder. Human station, this is Captain Thek of the Vorthan fleet. What have you done to us? My crew is experiencing sensations we have no words for. Tom Blake answered from the control room, his own voice filled with amazement at what they had accomplished. "Captain, you're feeling empathy for the first time. You're experiencing what it means to care about someone other than yourself." "This caring," Thek replied slowly, "it causes pain in my chest when I think of the suffering we have caused." "Is this normal for your species?" Maya stepped up to the communication panel. Kira's hand still in hers, as golden light pulsed between them. "Yes, Captain. When you care about others, their pain becomes your pain. But their joy becomes your joy, too. That's what makes life worth living." Dr. Williams monitored the readings from the Vorthan ships and shook his head in disbelief. "Maya, their entire fleet has powered-down weapons. Some of their ships are requesting permission to dock with the station." Jake Morrison checked the security displays and found scenes he never could have imagined. Vorthan soldiers throughout the station were sitting with freed Kromari prisoners, their scaled hands touching translucent skin as they tried to understand the emotions flowing between them. Former captors and captives were sharing memories, showing each other their worlds and families through the empathic connection. "This is incredible," Lisa-chan reported as she moved to the lower levels. The Vorthan soldiers are apologizing to their prisoners. Some of them are crying. "I never thought I'd see reptilian tears." Commander Vex appeared in the control room, but he was not the same arrogant officer who had threatened them hours earlier. His reptilian face showed exhaustion, and something that might have been grief as he struggled with the new emotions filling his mind. "Dr. Torres," he said quietly, "I need to understand what has happened to me. I feel the pain of every Kromari my forces have captured over the years. The weight of their suffering is crushing my thoughts." Maya looked at him with compassion rather than anger. "That's guilt, Commander. It's what happens when you realize you've hurt innocent people. But it's also the first step toward making things right." Kira spoke in her musical language, and through their connection Maya felt the meaning flow into her mind. She translated for the others. "Kira says her people don't want revenge. They want understanding. They want to build something better than what existed before." Tom's instruments showed more ships approaching from hyperspace, but these were not Vorthan vessels. "Maya, we're getting signals from multiple Earth ships. It looks like word has somehow gotten out about what's happening here." The first human ship to arrive was the exploration vessel Horizon, commanded by Captain Sarah Martinez. Her voice came over the communication channels with urgent concern. "Research Station, Kepler. This is Captain Martinez. We received some very unusual reports about your situation. Are you under attack?" "Not anymore," Maya replied. "Captain, we've made a discovery that's going to change everything. We've found a way for different species to truly understand each other." Over the next several hours, more ships arrived from across the galaxy. News of the empathic breakthrough had spread through subspace communications faster than anyone had expected. Representatives from dozens of species came to witness what was being called the first true interspecies emotional connection in galactic history. Maya found herself at the center of a transformation that went far beyond anything she had imagined when she first touched Kira's shoulder in that prison cell. The young Kromari had become something more than an individual being. Through their connection, she served as a bridge between not just humans and Kromari, but between any species willing to open their minds to new possibilities. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Galactic Science Council arrived aboard the research vessel Discovery and immediately began studying the empathic field with equipment far more sophisticated than the station possessed. "Dr. Torres, the implications of what you discovered are staggering. This empathic resonance appears to be a fundamental force of consciousness itself. It's not something we created," Maya explained as she stood surrounded by beings from 6 different species, all connected to the golden network that pulsed with shared emotions. "It was always there. Humans just happened to be the key that unlocked it." Tom had been working with Kromari engineers to understand how their bioluminescent energy could enhance human technology. "Maya, they're showing me things that shouldn't be possible. Their energy doesn't just power our systems. It makes them more efficient, more responsive. It's like the technology becomes alive." Lisa-chan was documenting the medical effects of the empathic connection and finding results that challenged everything she knew about biology. The health benefits are remarkable. Humans connected to the network show improved immune responses, faster healing, and enhanced cognitive function. The Kromari are experiencing similar improvements. Jake Morrison had been working with former Vorthan soldiers to establish new security protocols based on cooperation rather than force. Maya, Captain Thek wants to know if his fleet can help transport freed Kromari back to their home worlds. He says his soldiers need to see the places they destroyed so they can understand what they need to rebuild. Maya felt the answer flow through the network from hundreds of connected minds. Tell him yes. Tell him that healing begins with seeing the truth of what was broken. Captain Thek's transformation was perhaps the most dramatic of all the Vorthan officers. Through the empathic connection, he had experienced the memories of every Kromari his forces had captured, feeling their fear and despair as if it were his own. Dr. Torres, my empire has committed crimes against consciousness itself. How do we begin to make amends for such vast suffering? One person at a time, Maya replied. One world at a time. One choice at a time to be better than you were before. Kira stepped forward and placed her free hand on Captain Thek's scaled arm. Golden light flowed between them, and the reptilian officer's eyes widened as he experienced forgiveness for the first time. Through the connection, he felt not anger from the Kromari, but hope for what their species could become together. She forgives me, Thek whispered in amazement. After everything my people have done, she offers forgiveness. Maya squeezed Kira's hand as she felt the truth of it flow through their connection. That's what forgiveness means, Captain. It's not about forgetting the past. It's about choosing to build a better future. Word of the empathic breakthrough continued to spread across the galaxy, carried by traders, diplomats, and refugees who had witnessed the transformation firsthand. On dozens of worlds, species that had been enemies for generations began to reach out to each other with new understanding. Dr. Williams established the first Interspecies Empathy Institute aboard the research station, with Maya and Kira as its founding directors. Tom designed new technologies that worked in harmony with the empathic field rather than fighting against it. Lisa developed medical techniques that used emotional connection as a healing force. Jake trained the first human Kromari Peace Corps, teams dedicated to bringing the empathic connection to other worlds. The Vorthan Empire did not collapse overnight, but began to change within as more soldiers and officers experienced the empathic connection. Captain Thek became the first Vorthan officer to formally renounce the Empire's policies of conquest and slavery, leading a fleet of converted ships to help rebuild the worlds they had once destroyed. Maya stood on the observation deck of the expanded research station 6 months after that first touch in Kira's prison cell. Around her, beings from 20 different species worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the empathic breakthrough. The golden light of the network connected them all, carrying emotions and ideas between minds that had once seen each other as alien and incomprehensible. Kira joined her at the viewport, her skin showing new colors that had emerged as the network grew stronger. These were colors of unity, hope, and dreams shared across species barriers. Through their connection, Maya could sense the thoughts and feelings of thousands of beings across dozens of star systems, all linked by the simple human ability to care for others. What are you thinking about? Maya asked, though she could already sense the answer through their bond. Kira's musical voice carried joy as she replied in words she had learned from her human friends. I am thinking about home. Not the world where I was born, but the home we are building together. A place where no one is alone, where every being matters, where fear is replaced by understanding. Maya watched as ships from across the galaxy approached the station, their crews eager to experience the empathic connection for themselves. Earth's flag flew alongside the banners of dozens of other worlds, not as symbols of conquest, but as beacons of hope in a galaxy that was learning what it meant to truly care for one another. The golden light pulsed brighter as more minds joined the network, carried with the revolutionary idea that the greatest strength in the universe was not the power to destroy, but the courage to understand, to forgive, and to build something beautiful together. In touching Kira's shoulder that day, Maya had not just saved one life, but had awakened the galaxy's capacity for love.